Hey everyone, my name is Wedge, and we're moving quickly through our Ixalan Best of the Rest series where we talk about the rest of the cards from Ixalan, not spoiled individually. In this video, we're going to cover all the blue cards. If you missed our first episode talking about the rest of the white cards, you can check that out by clicking the link on the screen. Alright, let's do this thing. Hope you enjoy. We'll begin with the super important reprint Air Elemental. This card is an old one, but one of the consistently most powerful limited cards whenever it's printed. You can't argue with the classic recipe, and a 4/4 flyer for 5 is pretty classic. Air Elemental is going to be a top limited pick guaranteed. One of the most powerful limited bombs in the set for sure. Easily first pickable. I think I've made my point. Let's move on. Depth of Desires, 3 mana for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand, create a treasure token. Now this is interesting, it doesn't have the flexibility to return any target non-land permanent, which is a bit of a bummer, but you do get to ramp off of it. It's a pretty interesting card. My first instinct though is to not like it. Even though you get that extra fixing and ramp, you're still spending 3 mana to simply delay something for a turn. I usually want that effect at a cheaper price, or at least be able to target all non-land permanents, not just creatures. But again, ramp and fixing are both good. This is a tough call, but I don't think I'm going to prioritize this in draft that highly. Dive Down is 1 blue mana for an instant. Target creature you control gets +0/+3 and gains hexproof until end of turn. I always go back and forth on cards like this because they take up a slot in your deck and are solely reliant on you having the card, having a creature worth saving, and having the mana to do it. There are going to be many times where this sits in your hand as a dead card. What I would do is only take these super late, then stick them in your sideboard, and only bring them in against black or red heavy decks that have a lot of removal. Like if it's clear that your creatures are going to die to removal, bring in something like Dive Down and maybe stem that onslaught. Other than that, I wouldn't main deck this card for anything. I think simply playing another creature is just better the vast majority of the time. Navigators Ruin is 3 mana for an enchantment with Raid. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack with a creature this turn, target opponent puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. I've seen a little bit in the way of mill and Ixalan, but certainly not enough to justify an entire strategy around it, and definitely not enough to pick this enchantment early. Milling is already hard enough to do, but when you add Raid to the mix, things get a little crazy. I'd rather spend 3 mana on another threat, or piece of removal, or just anything besides this. I'm not saying milling 4 cards can't be good, but unless you have a specific reason to include this in your limited deck, I probably wouldn't. One with the Wind is 2 mana for an enchant creature aura with gorgeous artwork. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. Well, this is my kind of aura, I'm all over this. It isn't the blue cartouche, but I'll take an additional power toughness. 2 mana is a decent price to give evasion and a boost to something. If your opponent doesn't 2-for-1 you, you're probably in a good spot to steal tons of damage. It's not the best card in every deck, but it's a nice aggro supplement in an on-color deck. Pirate's Prize is 4 mana for a sorcery. Draw 2 cards, create a treasure token. Expensive, sure, but actually a decent draw spell, especially if you're stuck on lands. It'll dig you 2 cards deep, and even if you don't find any land then, you still have a treasure token you can use to boost you up to 5 mana for a turn. Sorcery speed is boring, but this is what we've come to expect from draw 2 cards like this. I think it's limited playable, but only as a 22nd or 23rd card. There's no reason to prioritize this in limited at all. Run Aground is 4 mana for an instant. Put target artifact or creature on top of its owner's library. I love cards like this. Of course, this isn't Grasp of Phantoms, which is a card I've been wanting back in standard sets since Innistrad, but it is instant speed, and it can target an artifact in addition to a creature, some nice flexibility there. I'm certainly going to play this. Not only at instant speed are you able to unsummon your opponent's best creature, but by putting it on top of their library, you also take one of their draws away. If they spend an entire turn playing a big creature and you run it aground, that's basically time walk. You force them to literally do the same turn twice and get nothing more out of it. No additional cards, nothing. Run Aground is certainly limited playable. It'll make the cut in a lot of blue limited decks I build. 100% love it. Sailor of Means is 3 mana for a 1/4 human pirate. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Pretty simple card with a simple effect. 3 mana for a 1/4 is definitely not great, but you do get a ramp a bit. You're going to want this card in a limited deck with a huge top end. This is a wall, and it's going to function only as a wall, so be sure that if you open this or draft it, you know that you have to build big or there's really no reason to run it at all. It has those 2 functions. It ramps and it has a big butt. Done. Shaper Apprentice is 2 mana for a 2/1 Merfolk Wizard. It has flying as long as you control another Merfolk. Shaper Apprentice is going to be a 2/1 for 2 most of the time, but if you open a decent amount of Merfolk or draft a decent amount of Merfolk, this has some nice upside. Dropping this turn 2 into another Merfolk turn 3 and attacking for 2 in the air feels really nice. Just be sure you have enough Merfolk to justify the inclusion. This isn't a top pick card at all, so don't worry about prioritizing it. It will get passed to you. Just be sure not to use a creature like this to fill a curve. A 2/1 for 2 is not good. Gotta have those Merfolk with it. Shipwrecked Looter is 2 mana for a 2/1 human pirate with Raid. When it enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Getting to loot after attacking isn't so bad. It comes on a 2/1 for 2, which isn't great, but at least you're getting some card filtering out of it. The problem is that by the time you can trigger Raid on this, we're probably beyond turn 3 or 4, and a 2/1 is more of a warm body than anything else. I think this will function at best as a filler creature in blue decks, but I'd probably look elsewhere if you can. Shorekeeper is 1 blue mana for a 0/3 Trilobite. You can pay 8 mana and sacrifice it to draw 3 cards. Say hello to Trilobites, gotta love new creature types. Hope we see more. As far as playability is concerned, this is infinitely better than the white one we looked at yesterday. Drawing 3 cards is always good all the time. Yes, it's expensive, but that's a late game payoff if I've ever seen one. And our little Trilobite drops early to stem the bleeding as we grow to our late game. This is a card you want in a slower deck that needs time to get going. Use this as a wall to get to your mid game, then later on, reap the rewards for your patience. I wouldn't put this into a deck that wants to move quickly at all. Only put this in control decks or mid-range decks that are on the more controlling side. Siren Look Out is 3 mana for a 1/2 Siren Pirate with flying. When it enters the battlefield, it explores. I'm hoping and praying that when you explore, this becomes a 2/3, because even though you might get an extra land and that's okay, you really want this to be a 2/3 and not a 1/2. A 2-power flyer is just way more dangerous than a 1-power flyer. Regardless, I still think it's worth playing simply because Explorer is so powerful, at least to me. You're getting something you want either way, free draw or a bigger flyer. Let's just hope you get the flyer. Siren's Ruse is 2 mana for an instant. Exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If a pirate was exiled this way, draw a card. The best target for something like this is a pirate with Raid. If you can build a solid limited deck with enough Raid triggers or enter the battlefield triggers, this could easily earn a spot. Drawing a card if you exile a pirate is also hugely important to the Ruse's value. The card has a lot of potential, but it's one of those cards that has to be placed into the right build. Look for pirates, look for Raid triggers specifically, then make a judgment call. It could be really great. Storm Sculptors, 4 mana for a 3/2 Merfolk Wizard that can't be blocked. When it enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. This is Keymaster Rogue, simply updated and creature shifted. Anyways, Keymaster Rogue wasn't exactly an all-star back in the day, and I'm not sure the Sculptor is going to fare any better. Having to return one of your own creatures does give it a bit of synergy with Raid triggers or enter the battlefield triggers, and unblockable on a 3-power creature is nothing to ignore, but still, setting yourself back unless you have something advantageous to return isn't ideal. Another card that would be specifically good in strategies where you can abuse that recurring playability, but if you don't have that, this may be more of a trap than you think. Tempest Caller is 2 of anything and 2 blue for a 2/3 Merfolk Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, tap all creatures target opponent controls. Hot dang, talk about something great to return with Storm Sculptor. This thing's nutty. Not something I expected out of the blue in this set, especially a Merfolk, but I will take it. This is exceptionally powerful as the mid to top end of an aggressive blue deck. Being able to blank your opponent's blockers for a turn, which gives you an alpha strike, that's quite powerful with the right setup. I think the Caller is going to make the cut in blue decks more often than not. Just make sure you have enough aggression to take advantage of the supremely broken trigger it comes with. Or, you know what? It's great late game too, against board stalls. Yeah, you know what? Never mind. Always play this. It's just super good. It's good in everything. Water Trap Weaver is 3 mana for a 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Great filler creature here, 3 mana for a 2/2 with an ability that neuters your opponent's best creature for a turn. You can cast this before attacks, get in for some damage, then do it again next turn. 2 free turns without their biggest threat. I think that easily makes this 3 mana 2/2 worth it. Not much more to say than that. I wouldn't pick this super early, but I also wouldn't have a problem getting a few of these in most limited blue decks, sealed or draft. I mean, Frostlink saw limited play. This will too. You can't argue with history, people. Windstrider is 5 mana for a 3/3 Merfolk Wizard with flash and flying, instantly playable. The long list of instantly playable flash flying 3/3s tells us all we need to know. Spire Monitor, Storm Rider Spirit, Fairy Invaders. Time and time again they print this exact card, and each time it's great and limited. High priority common pick, this set's no different, and this time there is additional value in the Merfolk creature type. One of the better commons we've seen so far, this will get picked early in draft and make it into most blue sealed decks guaranteed. Again, can't argue with historical results. These cards are very good every time they're printed. And that's going to do it for the rest of the blue cards in Ixalan. What do you think about the color overall? My first impression is that there are a lot of cards that are great for support or good in specific strategies. I don't think we have much in the way of universally good blue cards this time around, which leads to my conclusion that blue is going to make a better support color this time around than a main color. Of course, if you disagree, I would love to hear what you have to say, so please leave all your thoughts in the comments and we'll talk about it. Also, keep on the lookout for more coverage as the weekend rolls on, and as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. Ixalan pre-order going on right now, $90 a box. Listen, I'm being straight with you here. If you can't find boxes at this price anywhere, you can find them at this price right here on this page. But click the link on the screen. It's super easy. You'll get your boxes as soon as the set comes out, and I guarantee you'll feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Well, I can't really guarantee that, but I think you will, okay? I do hope you're enjoying the coverage so far, and if you want in, the link's right there. Just click it. Enjoy.